testing.
Keep it down there, guys.
All right, we're sitting on the bus, Morbid Angel's tour bus. We're going to be talking to Dave Vincent from Morbid Angel, and if you don't know the name, then you're an idiot. And that's pretty much the way it goes with that. Morbid Angel being around since way back in the 1980s, starting with Terrorizer, going into their first album, which pretty much has become one of the biggest classic death metal albums of all time, Altars of Madness. And I don't know what kind of mood Dave is in right now. He looks like he's kind of tired, but the tour has been going on pretty well. But I guess the way I'm going to start out the interview, I'm pretty straightforward when I do things. And I guess my first question for you is that in a lot of interviews that Morbid Angel has done in the past few years and other bands have done, it seems like there's been a lot of shit slinging back and forth. Do you think? Why do you think that? Why is there such animosity between perhaps Morbid Angel and other bands and things like that?
Well, I would have to say that it's all one-sided. I don't have any animosity towards anybody unless they got some kind of problem. But, I think with success and popularity comes, people who are jealous. I mean, in my opinion, it's just really, lets people know what kind of character you are. I mean, I could sit here and slag Metallica all day long, but it would just seem like it was just me being jealous of their success, which I don't slag people who are bigger and better than I am. I just, try to work harder to do better myself. So, I think that if everybody took that policy to heart, then the scene would be a lot healthier today.
Well, that's a good answer to the question. Back last year in Pit Magazine, there was a pretty vicious attack, it seemed like. And if you don't want to speak for him, that's perfectly fine. I understand that. But Trey seemed not like a lot of people, and he kind of even bagged on the underground, and that's where everybody came from. And I if you don't want to comment on it, that's perfectly fine. But
well, I will comment on it because I think that even though Trey was in a very bad mood, Trey gets very upset about being asked questions time and time again about what does he think about with this band, or what this guy says, or who says this, and it turns it really into a soap opera. And Morbid Angel, we're not in this to win any popularity contests or any soap operas. We're in here to write the very best songs that we can. We're in here to be as creative as we can and true to ourselves and our own personal creativity, and to set high goals for ourselves and high standards for ourselves and achieve those goals. Now, if someone hands me a demo tape and says, what do you think about this? How do you think it, if they want my honest opinion, I'll give it a listen to it. And if the production is terrible, if the riffs sound like riffs that I heard written 10 years ago, and it's then that I'm supposed to be considered a cool guy just by saying that, yeah, I like this tape and it's a cool tape, well, I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to be part of some scene that is just, to be cool and to be considered cool, you got to think everybody else is cool, because it has nothing to do with cool. It has to do with art, it has to do with talent, it has to do with people striving to do their very best. And with each record that we do our very best. And I'm never ever going to come out on record supporting or, acknowledging something and saying something's great when it's not great. And if it is great, I'll be the first person to, as a matter of fact, there's a band that gave me a tape last night, even though I think the production leaves a little bit to be desired, but there's a band called Infamy that's a demo band from here in California. And I thought the tape was great. I thought it was one of the best demos that I've heard the whole, the whole tour. But the point is it gets back to this thing about, once, you're not considered cool, you're considered an asshole if you say something bad about the underground. Well, I'll say right now, I think the underground is filled with a whole bunch of bands that really, really suck, and I think it's what's killing the music. I think people are spending more time trying to be cool, listening to tapes of their favorite bands and just, plagiarizing those tapes, but not even doing it as well as it originally was. And unfortunately, to be able to make distinctions between what's quality and what's not, there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. There's going to be people who are going to do better. There are people who are more talented or more intelligent or whatever out there. There is no equality. You're not just a great band if you have a band and you write letters and you support the scene. That doesn't make you a great band. What makes you a great band is being talented, being true, being honest, and putting out good material. And whoever doesn't like those words, then they just don't accept life the way it is, because there's no equality in nature, there's no equality in the death metal scene, there's no equality in anything. All there is hard work, and there's warriors, and there's people who win, and there's people who lose.
Thanks. That was very concise. I appreciate that honesty, and especially when it comes down to this type of thing, I agree with you on most of your points, and that's out of the way now. And let's talk about Morbid Angel.
All right.
I guess this almost kind of has something to do. I heard a really bad rumor that you might not be having any record company support anymore. Is that true? Or
well, our label is no longer. Giant Records does not exist anymore. So we are once again free agents.
I don't think you're going to have a problem getting picked up again.
I don't think we'll have a problem yet.
Yeah, that's especially probably with the album sales that Domination has achieved. And
well, we've managed to do real good. I mean, I don't have any regrets about our record label. I mean, they took us for being a fairly obscure band that sold, 5 digits worth of album sales, and 2 albums later, several videos later, and lots of exposure later, we're up to 6 digits, and we're free agents again. So how can anybody complain about that?
Definitely not. How do you think of what do you think of your exposure, at least on MTV America, with your video plays?
Well, I probably ought not comment on about that. I mean, MTV is not my favorite institution right now.
Neither am I.
Even if they played my video, every other video, I'm still not happy with the general programming going on down there, and I'm not very happy with the type of trash that they're putting in people's minds. So
yeah,
that's not my favorite thing.
Well, it's got nothing to do with metal, that's for sure, because they.
Well, it has nothing to do with music.
Yeah, that's a fact. Down in with the death metal scene as it stands today, there's a lot of American media that, at least in the upper echelons of media, that consider metal dead, and that especially with things like death metal in a genre of music that most people do not understand, and they will not ever understand it because they just don't have the mind for it, or perhaps the feeling for it. How do you feel that death metal is going to be doing for the next 10 years, say?
Well, let me just say this: the corporate media elite they don't like things that they can't control. And metal, as it were, is something that's always been a grassroots, underground thing. It's extreme music for extreme people. It's not music that's meant to be listened to in office buildings and elevators while during fine dining or any other thing like that. It's a brutal form of music. Brutal people enjoy it. People come. It's a very interactive sport, if you will, a live show, at least a Morbid Angel show. Our fans are the most loyal fans in the world, and I know that, as long as we're there, they're there, and vice versa. The problem is that, a few years ago, I guess it enjoyed some form of mainstream popularity because the media, I don't know whether they felt like if they usurped it for a while, they could make it their own, and if they made it their own, and then if they're off of it because it became passé in their eyes, that they could kill it. But it's just not going to happen. They don't have control over it. You can tell the thousands of people that have come to see us on our tour, and I made actually announcements about it every night, that I said, hey, it's pretty obvious that everybody here tonight, because MTV and most of the radio stations and newspapers and what have you have said that this form of music is not cool, that everybody in this room is not cool. And I think, frankly, all of our fans are pretty happy to be on the outs with those type of people, because, I don't think that they really give a damn about hip-hop or any of this other trash on MTV, or any of this garbage commercial trash that's on the radio, or any kind of stupid opinions and garbage that they see in any of these magazines. So, things are back where they should be, which is a good, honest relationship between the artist and the fans, and que sera, sera,
Is that somewhat of a thing that you tried to put across on Domination with some of your lyrics and that type of thing?
Well, I've always encouraged people in one form or another to think for themselves and to overlook. Believe it or not, in this day of age, there's some people who, they're actually afraid to believe anything that's not told to them on the television set. If they don't read it in a newspaper, or if it's not, like some kind of a group mentality thing, then they're afraid to explore any kind of thoughts or opinions that might go outside that circle of acceptance. And this is a real dangerous thing, and I always encourage people to question everything for themselves, and decide, is this really right for me? I mean, are these things that I'm being forced to, various fashion? I mean, things that it's a disease that's kind of crept into to all aspects of life. This idea of commercialism and trendiness, fashionability, the idea of what's fashionable, what's not, what's cool, what's not. I think if people spent a little less time concerned about what other people thought about their choices and what they like, and spend a little more time being concerned with what do they really want out of their life, that there'd be a lot more happier people in this world.
How long did it take you, as a band as a whole, to come up with the material on Domination, and how long did it take you to actually record the material?
Well, we recorded it, and then took about 3 months to record it, and I think we wrote it. I think we wrote it in 6 months. It's pretty much record time for us. Of course, Eric helped out with the writing, so that speeded up things. He's like a riff factory. He just comes up with things left and right. And, I mean, that furthered it. I think that definitely sped the process up a lot.
And you feel that Eric has integrated into what Morbid Angel is all about, considering that he's been playing on this album, and that's it?
Actually, I think the guy's an asshole. No, I mean, I like Eric a lot. I think he's a very accomplished guitar player, and I'm very proud to play with him on stage.
Great. The artwork that you did for Domination is drastically different than most other bands out there, using some computerized images and things like that. How did you guys come up with that, or did you have an artist just independently create it?
We had an artist that created a couple things. That's why there's a different cover on the record and the CD, because he sent us two different pieces of art and asked us to choose which one we liked better, and we couldn't choose which one we liked better, so we decided to use both of them. But yeah, I'm pretty into the fact that it is, as you said, and so rightfully so, drastically different than everything else, because I like being drastically different. I like doing I'm a drastic person, and I hope to always be.
Since your days in Terrorizer way back when, and going into Altars of Madness and all the way up here now in 1996, what would you say are probably the biggest changes in the metal scene, the death metal scene, and that type of thing that's been going on? Have there been any monumental areas that you think have caused any good things in death metal, or bad things? Or
well, I think it just as any form of music. I mean, there's been a progression that's taken it from point A to point B, and I mean there's diversions in between. I would like to back up just a second just to clarify something. Contrary to popular belief, I was actually never in Terrorizer. All I did was record the record. Terrorizer was Pete's band prior to joining Morbid Angel.
Okay.
And Altars of Madness was actually recorded first, and we toured for it first prior to even the recording of Terrorizer. Somehow, some press releases, with either through Earache or rumors or what have you, made it seem like Pete and I were in Terrorizer and then joined Morbid Angel. I was actually never in Terrorizer, so I just wanted to clarify that one point.
Okay. Yeah, that's something that I think probably a lot of people are confused upon. I mean, shit, I've been in this scene for a long time, and that's what I always thought.
Well, yeah, I mean, they so far as I know, they had planned to do a record, and then when Pete joined Morbid Angel, there was still some plans to do the record, and I was invited to actually play bass on the record, which, I mean, I had a very good time doing everything else, but I was never actually a band member. So,
is it a project that you just put behind you, and it was just a quickie thing that you did between Altars of Madness and Blessed Are the Sick? Or
well, from my part of it, yes, but it's not my project. I mean, I was invited to be a guest on it, so any of the decision making, any future projects or anything about that really I'm not the person to ask about that. That would probably be more Jesse and Pete.
Yeah, believe it or not, it still gets requested on a.
Well, hey, look, I think for what it is, I mean, it was a very low budget record. We went in, we knocked it out, recorded it, and mixed it in 2 days, and it's a brutal, piece of work.
Yeah. Altars of Madness gets actually requested quite a bit. I think Chapel Rules is probably one of the favorite songs, and through the internet, I'm on that quite a bit through reviews of the shows that have happened so far in the United States. Sounds like it's been going pretty well for all the bands. Any comments on that at all?
Yeah, it has been going real well. I mean, it's surprising for a form of music that all of the quote-unquote official pundits have called dead, done, over, and everything else. We've had better attendances on this tour than we've had on most of our previous tours. So we've got a couple of good bands from Sweden on tour with us. Athletics and Dissection are both really good bands, really cool people as well. And we're just doing what we have to do.
Is that what they were mentioning that upwards of 1,000 people per show sometime on a couple shows. Detroit, they said, was probably the best one. Is that
Detroit was really good. Chicago was really good. You know, I mean, most of the shows were very positive turnouts. And you know, the point is it just gets back to the same thing that you know, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. And we've survived as much negative publicity as we can. We've survived boycotts from most of the major media. We've survived blackouts from MTV and most of the radio stations, and our attendance is up. So what does that tell you?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's anybody that has half a brain, they know that death metal's not going to die anytime soon, ever. And it, thankfully, to bands that do keep the scene alive in some sort of originality here and there, I think that's definitely what's going to keep it going for all time. But is Morbid Angel working on any new material at all for the future?
Well, we do have some ideas. Technically, we don't really do writing while we're on the road. We try to stay focused with one project at a time. So when we're touring, we're touring. When we're writing, we're writing. And when we have time off, we have time off. It's very straightforward with us.
Is this something that is yourself that you imagined yourself doing when you were younger, say?
I'm doing exactly what I want to do. If I didn't want to do it, I wouldn't be doing it.
But I guess what I'm saying is it's something that you dreamed about doing.
Sure.
I know that's kind of a RIP magazine kind of question, but it's
it's
important.
not. I mean, it is. I mean, people, you have to have dreams and goals and aspirations in order to achieve anything. And I think that's one thing that could be said for sure about the band as a whole and each individual member is that we've all had dreams of achieving successes in our particular fields, and I think that as a unit we've seen these dreams and goals come to fruition, and it's a very self-gratifying thing when you can look back and say, gee, I made this happen, I made the earth move.
All right, that's I think I'm going to get out of your way so you can relax for a bit before the show starts, but it's about 20 minutes or so. I appreciate your honesty a lot, because even in the underground media that's been coming out here, I think sometimes you get a one-sided view upon things, and that's one of the things that I wanted to clear up with this particular interview.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, it is very easy to manipulate things and to get the wrong impression, and I mean, look, there's nothing that Trey loves more than guitar playing and music, and he wants to be a fan. He wants very much to listen to bands that are going to blow him away. But on the same note, he's not going to just go along with the flow and say something is cool just so that he can be part of some elusive scene somewhere. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. We are honest, and brutally honest, and unfortunately that makes an awful lot of people like us and have respect for us, and it makes a lot of people who maybe have a little bit of work to do not like us. So you know what I mean? It's the way of the world, my friend.
Well, I'll guarantee you that every single word that you spoke in this interview will be put down on paper when it's in my magazine, and it will be played in its entirety on the radio, so nobody will get the wrong ideas about anything like that.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question. Do you agree with what I said?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said, because, as in the position in the media that I am, in the underground media, one of the very rare radio stations in the United States that actually plays death metal and not mixing any other kinds of metal into it. A little bit of black here and there every once in a while when there's something significant. You're exactly right, because even I get trash said to me, and some band that's copying some other band, and it just isn't. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, and the intent is not to step on anybody's toes. I mean, God, we've got it's constructive criticism, and if someone's a true warrior, they're going to get up off the ground, they're going to dust themselves off, and they're going to try that much harder the next time. I mean, it's that way in professional sports, it's that way in music, it's that way in anything where it takes the fortitude and the gumption of the individual to achieve something, and you're not always going to win, and sometimes you're going to come across trials and tribulations that'll beat you down. It's the easiest thing in the world to do at anything is fail. You go through the path to success is littered on the side of the road, either side of the road, with failures. It's the easiest thing to do is fail. It's the most difficult thing in the world to do to succeed. It's the people who truly succeed who will inherit this earth.
And those are perfect words to end the interview.
Hi, it's David Vincent from Morbid Angel, and you're listening to No Speed Limit, as is, well... Hi, it's David Vincent from Morbid Angel, and I'm sitting here with Steve Miller on No Speed Limit, KCPR 91.3 FM.